Hello guys, this is Tech Howdy. I welcome you to this video tutorial on how to create image gallery in ASP.NET Core 2.1 project. This is part 5 of the video tutorial, and in this video tutorial we will be creating our controller class, and we will use this class to conduct CRUD operations on our gallery, to add image, to delete images, to create gallery, to delete gallery. We will create all the required methods in this controller class. So let's go ahead and right click on your controller folder and add a new file. So we'll go to ASP.NET Core and select an Web API controller class. Let's call this class as Gallery Controller and then hit New. Now we have a Gallery Controller class created with some default methods. Let's go ahead and an application DB context property that we can use to communicate with our database, and we will do this using the ASP.NET Core's dependency injection feature. And to use our dependency injection feature, we are going to create a private read-only object of type application DB context. Call this as underscore DB and add the missing reference. Now what we want to do is delete all these methods. We don't need them. If you created an empty web API class, then you wouldn't see any of these predefined methods. Since I didn't have the option on Mac, I got these methods created by default. So I deleted them now. And now you want to create a constructor class for your gallery controller. So let's create it. So in our controller class, we are going to pass an object of type application DB context and call it DB. And then when our controller class will run the constructor method, we are going to assign underscore DB the value of our DB. And this application DB context class parameter will be provided to our constructor at runtime from our service in startup.cs. If you remember, we had created a service called as addDBContext. When this service will be initiated, at the runtime, we will provide it as a parameter to our constructor of gallery controller. So if you are wondering where it's going to get this DB context object, it's going to get it from this service that will be injected during runtime. Now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and also create a read-only object of type iHosting environment. And the reason why we need this, I will tell you in a minute. We are also going to pass our iHosting environment object from the startup.cs to our constructor parameter of gallery controller. So let's create an object here, call it env, and then assign it our static object env the value of env. So now we can access and use our environment, hosting environment. The reason why we created this object is because we want to upload images to a server or upload files to a server. Therefore, we need the server path in order to upload it to the correct folders. And to get the server path, we would need the iHosting environment object. And we will use it as we proceed, and you will understand why we need the environment object. Now let's go ahead and create our first method, that is to post images. So let's create an HTTP post method. This method is going to be an asynchronous method because we are going to run this method in our background of the application so it doesn't affect the main thread. So let's call this method as post form data because all our data including the image, image title, image caption, gallery title, it's going to come from a form in our front end. So let's call this method as form data. So let's go ahead and create it. So the method has been created. Now let's go ahead and pass some parameters to our post form data method. So the first parameter you want to pass is the gallery object. So let's bind all the gallery properties together to this gallery object, like the gallery title, the gallery URL, and the gallery ID that will be created by our database. So let's call this as gallery object as gallery, and then add the missing reference. And now let's add our second parameter, which is going to be of the interface type iForm collection. So we're going to use iForm collection because we are going to receive a collection of data from our form. So the collection of data includes the images that needs to be added to the gallery that we are going to create, and also the image captions and so on. So all these data will be binded together in our iForm collection object, which we will be calling it as form data. And then we are going to use this data to submit it to our database. So that's it for our parameters. Now, before we code this method further, we need to understand the working of our image gallery process. So when we are posting or creating an image gallery, what we are going to do is the form data collection object, which contains all the images that we need to add to our gallery object. We would need to first create an gallery, and then only we can add all the images from our form data object to that specific gallery. In order to add those images to that gallery, our gallery should be created first, and therefore we need a gallery ID. So before we code this method of posting the images to our gallery, let's go ahead and create a method called as create gallery ID that will create our gallery for us and return the gallery ID. So the method to create our gallery and return its ID is completed. All this method does is creates a gallery in your database and returns the ID of that gallery. That gallery is an empty gallery. As of yet, there are no images in it. We are going to add images to that specific gallery using this method called as post form data. And where do we get these images from? We are going to get these images from a form that we are going to submit from our browser. Now, we want to create three variables. The first variable that will hold the value of a gallery title, the second variable that will hold the value of our gallery ID, and the third variable which will hold the value of our gallery path, which is nothing but the gallery URL property that we created. So let's go ahead and do that thing right away. So we have created three variables over here. So the first one is for our gallery title that will get its value from the form data object. So the second variable, that is the ID, which will hold the value of our gallery ID. So we are going to call this method which returns the ID of our gallery and assign it to our variable called as ID. The reason why we get this squiggly line is because it's an asynchronous method and we need to use the await keyword. Now the third variable, as I said, we would want to store the path of our gallery where the gallery needs to be created in our server. So what I have done is I have created a folder called as uploads within my root folder, and within the uploads folder I have created another folder called as gallery. Now I want to provide the path of this folder over here. Now how do I do it in ASP.NET Core? So as you know, earlier I mentioned that we are going to make use of an iHosting environment object called as I underscore env. So all we are going to do is call the object within our path.combine method. The path class is a part of system.io, so you need to add the reference using system.io. Now, when we call the object underscore env, we will have access to some methods. One of them is to get the web root path. So let's call that method. Now, so now we have the path of our www root folder. Now what we want to do is within the www root folder, we want to get the path of a gallery folder. Now how do we get the path of that folder? For people who are using Windows, all they have to do is just add an @ symbol and then add a string. All the string will say is backslash uploads backslash gallery and then another backslash. So this is how you combine the path of your root and the folder within your root in Windows operating system. But those who are using Mac or Linux like me, they would want to use a different method, which would be something like this. So what you're going to do is you're going to add a dollar symbol and then add a string. Within this string, you're going to add two curly braces, and within these two curly braces, you're going to call the path class and then the method called as directory separator char. This basically adds a separator like forward slash or backslash depending on your operating system. Okay, so now I've not tried this on Windows though. If you can see if it works like this on Windows, then it's fine. But on Windows, you can directly add the root path by backslash the name of the folder. But in Macs, it's slightly different, right? So that's why I'm using this method here. And then you want to add name of the folder, which is uploads. And then again, you're going to add a directory separator and then the gallery folder. And then finally, again, it directory separator. So that's it. So that's the path of our gallery folder. But when we create new galleries every time, we want to create new folder for each gallery. So let's say we create a new gallery with the ID of 1. Then we want a folder within gallery with the name 1. And then we create another gallery with the ID of 2. We have another folder within gallery called as 2. And therefore, each gallery folder will have a unique name. Then let's come. What we want to do is we want to combine the name of that folder. So the way we do that is we call the ID, which is the ID of the gallery that we create, and it's going to be unique because it's database generated. And then we convert it to a string, and that's it. So it's going to be something like the path would be something like this: www root forward slash uploads forward slash gallery forward slash 1. Then the next folder would be www root forward slash uploads forward slash gallery forward slash 2, and so on. So now we already are adding a new folder name to our string. But where is the method to create a new folder each time? So we need to also now go ahead and create a method that will create a new folder each time. So let's go ahead and write that method. And the method to create a folder each time for our gallery, we'll call this method as create directory. So it's a private method again. It's void because it doesn't return anything. And it's private because it can only be accessed by this controller class. and let's call this create directory. I'm sorry if I'm being a bit detailed because there are some people like who would want to know why I'm using a private method, who would want to know why I'm using an why I'm using iHosting environment and so on. If you feel, you can always fast forward the videos and you can watch it if you are well aware about ASP.NET. But those who are not, they can always watch it in a slow process. Once you are aware about how things work, then you don't need to follow these tutorials in slow pace. I'll make sure that I upload these videos also in fast forward recorded methods, like in one shot where you can watch the entire video in like 10 minutes or 5 minutes, like fast forward. So in that way it saves time. But those who are not familiar with ASP.NET framework, ASP.NET Core framework and how it works, you can go ahead and give some time and learn things. So now the private void method doesn't return anything, it just creates a directory. So now what we want to do is, where do you want to create this directory? We need to provide a path, correct? So where do we get this path? We get this path from our parameter string, and let's call this gallery path. So when we tell create a directory, we don't want it to create a directory anywhere in our application folder. So we want to create it in a specific folder, which is the gallery folder, right? So we will provide that path. So now what we want to do is we want to add a condition. What is the condition for? The condition is basically we are saying if a directory already exists, don't create a new directory with that name. If a directory does not exist, then only go ahead and create it. That's because we don't want multiple directories with same name being created or same ID being created on our server for galleries. That's going to take a lot of resource. So let's go ahead and add that condition. If not directory dot and call the exists method, which will check for us if a directory exists. And where you want to check if the directory exists, provide the path of that folder. It will check within your gallery folder if a directory with the specific ID name exists. If it does not exist, then what we want to do is we want to call the method create directory. That's it. And then where you want to create directory, you need to provide the path within your gallery folder. That's it. So this is our method to create a directory for our gallery every time a new gallery is uploaded. So we will call this method now in our post form data, and we need to provide a path. So the path is our gallery path. This is this variable which holds the path of the gallery folder, correct? And now it's going to create a new gallery folder every time we submit this new image gallery. So now let's go this further. So we will continue this video in the next part because I don't want to make this video a bit lengthy. So it's already almost 18 minutes and I think this is fine for this part. In the next part, we should finish completing our post form data, and then we will create our front end, which will have a form where we can submit and create our gallery. So please watch the next video tutorial. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.